All right, thank you, Jim. Vice President Kamala Harris is accepting the Democratic nomination for president tonight. NBC's Alice Barr is at the United Center in Chicago with more on the last night of the Democratic National Convention.
Hi there. We are counting down to the main event when Vice President Kamala Harris will take the stage to formally accept her party's history-making nomination for president. Sources are telling NBC News that in her speech, she's going to try to go through her personal and professional story to present a contrast with former President Trump and then to lean into what they're describing as a deep and abiding sense of patriotism. That all follows her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, doing the same, kind of introducing himself to the nation. He talked a lot about his personal story, having been a teacher and high school football coach. There were some of his former athletes that were actually here in the United Center, and he gave what amounted to a locker room pep talk. He talked about being down by a field goal, but going on offense and having the right team to carry this over the finish line in these final weeks and months before the election. He also spoke about, his growing up in a small town in Nebraska and how that taught him to take care of each other, but also to mind your own business. And that really fed into what he was setting up as his definition of freedom. He talked about reaching across the aisle when he was in Congress. He's someone who was chosen certainly in an attempt to appeal to those small town, working class, white, rural Americans that this ticket is going to need. And he talked about knowing when to reach across the aisle and compromise, but not compromising his values. He did not shy away from the series of progressive policies that he signed now that he is governor of Minnesota, and talked about not banning books, but banishing hunger from classrooms. He talked about protecting reproductive freedom, and again, that all went into his conception of what freedom is. So that was the big moment from last night. But again, it's all leading up to tonight when Vice President Kamala Harris will take the stage and make that last push on the final night of the Democratic National Convention. From the United Center in Chicago, I'm Alice Barr, NBC News.
Our political editor, Mark Maxwell, is in Chicago. He'll report from the convention again tonight at 5, 6, and 10. You can also catch his reports on KSDK.com and streaming on 5+.